What's going on, 8th grade Kayla students? Today I want to go over the Chapter 14 Anticipation Guide that I had you guys working on last week. Just to help you out here. I know many of you are pretty tech savvy, but just in case you're struggling here, what I'd like for you to try and do today is have my YouTube video going on one side of your screen and have your document that you submitted to me, the anticipation guide that you copied and pasted into the document, and then sent to me. I'd like you to have that open too, so then you can correct your answers. All right. So really quickly, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to the top right corner. You're gonna want to click on that bad boy right there. All right. You're gonna want to minimize the screen. Then you're gonna use this old double arrow here, and you're gonna pull that screen down so that you can split your screen. Then you can open up a new tab. All right, and then repeat steps 1 and 2, and then hopefully by the time you're done with all that, you'll have a nice split screen where you'll have my video on one side. That's me. Good self-portrait. And then over here would be your document. All right. Again, make corrections as I'm going through here. Okay. So I did appreciate a lot of your answers that you guys gave me. Number one was kind of a joke, right? Because of the COVID virus, Mr. Decker is so nervous about COVID-19, he's never going to Disney World again. Yeah. A lot of you went ahead and capitalized the disagree because, let's face it here, I'm going. If it was up to me, I would probably be the first person in line the day that it reopens, but that probably wouldn't be responsible. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of time. For number 2, the example that I gave you, Star Wars is the greatest movie franchise of all time. Even I had to think about that for a second. I love Star Wars. There's a lot of great movie franchises, but you know what? For this one, I'm going to go with an agree. All right, now let's get into the real stuff here. For number 3, hopefully you guys remembered this from class. It feels like forever ago, but probably about 2 months ago when we were talking about the divisions that were leading towards the American Civil War. We did the Missouri Compromise map. One of those inventions that I was talking to you about that had unintended consequences was Eli Whitney's cotton gin, right? Remember that? So for number 3, actually that would be an agree. Eli Whitney's cotton gin actually led to more demand for slave labor in the South, and unfortunately it did lead to an increase in the slave trade. So that would be, unfortunately, Eli Whitney's cotton gin actually increased the slave trade in the South. For number 4, 3/4 of the population in the southern U.S. were slave owners in the 1800s. 3/4, that would be 75%. A lot of you picked agree on this, and you know what? I don't blame you on that one. That would be the logical guess. A fascinating fact about this is that actually that's a disagree. There's a lot of conflicting results, and there's a lot of really totally inaccurate information out there. There was a meme a couple of years back that said only 1.4% of Southern population. That's way low, but the number is a lot lower than people think. There's varying accounts, but we're looking at realistically probably about a quarter, 1/4, or 25%. And some estimates say as low as 10%, but we'll just go with a quarter. About a quarter of the population of the South were actually slave owners. And a lot of that had to do with wealth distribution. All right, and I made a little chart for you here. About a third to a fourth of Southern aristocrats, they had a wealthy ruling class there, and as you can see, the balance is way off, okay? Only about that 10 to 25% of the population of the South were the aristocratic plantation owners. The rest of the South was so poor they could barely afford to survive on their own crop yield. So there was a rich ruling class in the South, and that made things a little unstable for them. They put all their eggs in one basket on their economy when it came to slavery, the plantation system, king cotton, tobacco, indigo, things like that. But they really didn't have much infrastructure outside of that. When you couple the wealthy ruling class with their complete reliance on agriculture, you'll start to see later on down the road why Abraham Lincoln's Anaconda Plan and Winfield Scott's Anaconda Plan sort of worked, because what they basically did was they strangled the South and cut them off from all supplies and from all trade. But we're getting ahead of ourselves on that one. For number 5, one of the most productive iron factories was located in the South. Now, a lot of you disagree because you were paying attention in class. I kind of laid the groundwork before we left that the industrial North, right, the American North at the time, had way more railroads. They were building more canals in the North. The Erie Canal would be one of them. The Transcontinental Railroad was about to get underway. There were way more factories. There was way more industry. There were also a lot more big cities. There wasn't as much reliance on agriculture in the North. So that would lead you to believe that the biggest iron factory in America would actually be in the North. Number 5 is actually agree. The biggest and most productive iron ore factory in the United States at the time was Treasure Iron Works. All right, Treasure Iron Works was located in Richmond, Virginia. However, it was more of the exception than the norm. And it was located in Richmond, Virginia, as I said, which those of you that are geography buffs, that's actually really close to the border between North and South. Okay, so Treasure Iron Works, the biggest iron production factory in America, but it was really the only one. There were some factories in the South, like textile mills, where they harvested cotton and spun it into cloth, but there really wasn't a whole lot more industry, and there really wasn't a whole lot more railroads in the South at the time. Moving on to number 6 here. By the way, please feel free to pause, rewind, play this back as many times as you need to. That's part of the perks of using YouTube here, is that you can go back and you can check those answers. You can listen to me again, and if I misspoke or if I went too fast, just pop me an email and we'll get her fixed. All right? Number 6, after the invention of the telegraph, people in the 1800s could communicate and send messages instantly from coast to coast. Depends on how much you thought about this one. Sounds an awful lot like the world we live in today, but believe it or not, that is an agree. All right? The telegraph, all right, and this is my attempt at a drawing of a telegraphed receptor, was developed actually by a man named Samuel F.B. Morse. All right, Samuel F.B. Morse developed a code called Morse Code, and I've got 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots. That's the most recognizable statement in Morse Code, SOS. All right, some people mistakenly think of that as save our ship. They use that as a distress call. It was one of the final things sent out on the Titanic, actually, SOS. It's because it was the most recognizable. All right, so these systems of dots and dashes, basically, when played out, would sound an awful lot like. So SOS would be, all right, dots and dashes. And it would take a while to learn that. And I know a lot of you are thinking right now, like, talking in codes? Like, come on, I'm not going to sit there and learn how to talk in a code, right? Nobody does that anymore, right? Nobody talks in codes. In my humble opinion, no way. JK, LOL. I'm great at this. No problem in real life. BRB, JK. Later. You guys talk in codes all the time. The human brain is actually wired to be able to communicate in all these different ways. All right, another interesting thing would be this. See if you can read that. Take a second here. Some of you are staring at it and trying to wipe the drool off the side of your face, but many of you are actually amazed right now that you can make sense of what you're saying. The bottom line is that the human mind is amazing. All right, it doesn't matter what order the letters of a word are. All right, all that matters is that the first and last letter are in the correct place, and your brain, after learning how to read and learning the English language, can decipher words and unmix them and be able to make sense of it. That's part of the reason why you can text in code. That's part of the reason why the human brain can learn different languages, all right? So Morse code, really, once you learn it, not a big deal, all right? Not a big problem. Kind of fascinating when you think about that. So that number 6 would be an agree, all right? Number 7, John Deere invents the steel plow. That would be an agree, and that's why most of my farming buddies can say nothing runs like a deer, right? He invents that steel plow. Before then, everything was made of wood. They would rot. They would break in the ground. That steel plow was able to cut into the earth and make a real nice divot so that farmers could plant their crops in nice, straight, even rows. It sped up the process, and that design is still used on farming equipment today. That steel plow just shrunk down, and now they put it on the huge combines and the planters. And I could have my buddy Farmer Jay come in here and tell you about that. They're starting to turn the fields over right now, just south of me. Most of you have no idea what I'm talking about. So moving on. Number 8, Southern economy. All right, the Southern economy in the United States depended almost solely on slave labor and plantations. Number 8 would be an agree. Like I said earlier, the South kind of put all their eggs in one basket when it came to plantations and slavery, and that actually made their economy very unstable once the Civil War got started, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. Number 9, Most manufactured goods were produced in the North during this time. That's an agree. Okay, most of the manufacturing plants and factories were located in the American North. Now, I want you to really remember numbers 8 and 9, the last two that we went over, right? Southern economy depended on slavery, and number 9, manufactured goods made mostly in the North. Reasons 8 and 9, along with the states' rights debate, along with those territory issues we talked about back in chapter 13, right, where the slave states and the free states were trying to push people out there to populate those territories to make them either a free state or a slave state. All right, there's a new debate that comes out of there called the states' rights debate, which we'll get into those reasons: the economy, all right, states' rights, the basically the unbalance of economic demands of North and South, with the issue of slavery. All of these things are a powder keg for Civil War to break out, and we'll talk about that as time goes on. The last one that I wanted to talk about, though, was number 10. All right, most 8th graders, that's you, actually miss going to school and seeing their teachers, attending class, and seeing their friends. Guys, I was really actually touched to see almost all of you said agree on that one. That really makes me happy. That's a tear. I was chopping onions earlier. Had nothing to do with me getting all sentimental. But guys, seriously, I miss you so much. I feel for you 8th graders that feel like you didn't get closure this year. I really did, in the back of my mind, think that we would get back together and see one another. I apologize to those girls on my basketball team. We didn't get to have our pizza party. You guys don't get to have your awards. But I'll tell you what, all of us will have a story to tell later on down the road. And I believe that if we really want to, we'll cross paths once again. All right? So, again, you don't need to submit anything. Just change your answers on that. We're going to go back over that. And, guys, your quiz that's going to come up this week, it's going to be right off of this sheet. A lot of the things that we talked about in this video. All right? So, don't worry about it. That's going to be your quick quiz. And then we'll catch back up next week. All right. Hope I didn't make your ears bleed when I sang to you this week. Guys, hang in there. We got this. Good luck. And may the force be with you.